stream. Thank you to the person that was waiting. There's a little reminder thing at the bottom. I'm not sure how to get rid of that, so hopefully I can actually see the chat. Can somebody chat into the room just to see if this thing goes away? I don't know what's going on with that. Anyways, let's go ahead and knock this disclaimer out while we wait for people to get here. I'm not a medical professional. Any major changes you make to your diet or any other aspects of your lifestyle is something you should check with the doctor with before enacting in your own life. Furthermore, I am not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is a recommendation for an investment. More so, I am a law-abiding citizen. Nothing I say is an admission of guilt. And lastly, but not leastly, all opinions are my own and are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with Google, YouTube, or any other platform you may be listening to or viewing this on in the future. That being said, thank you to our first chatters. Benito, good to see you. Pochi Potter, good to see you as well. I'm doing quite well today. I'm just sipping a little ginseng ginger tea here. Was hoping to stream outside, but it looks like the wind is blasting out there quite well, so I'm indoors today. How's my audio? Can I get an audio check? Because it sounds like echoey to me, but perhaps it's coming in clearly on your side due to all the fancy smancy technology built into these phones and stuff. Sybil, good to see you, good to see you. Okay, audio's good. Image is good. You guys, I put a little title on today's stream. It's not a fixed subject. We can do our usual Q&A as per usual, but at the moment when I scheduled the stream, one of my regular chatters, Max, was, I was having a conversation with him about what is the highest pleasure that God can experience. And my simple answer was duality, which was not something that I elaborated on in the moment because I wanted to inspire thought, and I thought it would be a good meditation to understand why I said that, considering that duality itself can be quite painful to experience. But I did have an experience, which I've talked about many times, where I got to look down at the earth like it was a small toy that I could hold in my hands, about yay big. When I did that, I was able to see through every human's eyes simultaneously and experience everybody's emotions as one. And while I've seen some very beautiful things, I've seen some very horrific things as well. I experienced both sides of that spectrum of duality, right? Both the pleasure and the pain. But in this moment, while encompassing every human's experience using only the smallest portion of my awareness, maybe like 1% of my total capacity for awareness, right, during this vision or experience, which is the main highlight that I took away from that at the moment of like how not only is God aware of everything and everybody in absolute totality, but that it's not a difficult task. That this is something that God can do with such ease, that it's as simple as it is for us to look around and perceive our surroundings and feel our skin and feel the air enter our lungs, right? This is the same for God, but through all of us simultaneously, where it takes almost no thought at all. It takes no effort, right? But in this moment of perceiving everything, all the beauties and the pleasures and the horrors and the pains, right? The only thing I could feel within myself at that moment, the thing that took up more of my capacity in that moment than perceiving everything that ever was, ever could be, was how much I loved it, right? Was the pure, most raw ecstasy of love, right? For every single person, high and low alike, good and evil alike, right and wrong alike. The most purest love imaginable as I look down at this earth with all of its good and its bad, right? So that was the experience which prompted me to answer that question of what is the highest pleasure of God, and its duality, because that's what this earth is. That's what this earth is based upon, is duality. It's to be able to experience not only life, but death, billions and billions and even trillions of times over the course of all time, right? That is the greatest pleasure of God. Anyway, so I'm gonna go to the chat. That was my opener, where I got this thing from. Hopefully Noi will show up soon to moderate for us, because it seems like we're getting that crowd today, but it's okay. So let's see, Cybele, good to see you. Okay, so there's a little echo, but we're gonna bear with it. Antonio, good to see you, my friend. Mayuminha, welcome. I hope you're doing well in Brazil. Swag Gaming, good to see you. Elevator has guardrail. Happy Sunday. Always a happy Sunday around here. Where am I? It's gorgeous. I am in Miami, Florida. It is quite beautiful. What happened to my eyebrow? What do you mean, what happened to my eyebrow? Nothing happened to it. That's why it's like that. I consciously made an effort to stop plucking and preening myself like a good slave, and to be free, and to be my natural self, and to let my nervous system flourish, and let the external part of my nervous system exist without my personal influence. Cybele says, I remember you mentioned that one of the things you missed most at the time was women. I've been curious about how your relationship with that desire changed over the years. Oh, you're talking about when I was in prison. And Cybele continues to say, and whether spirituality played a role if you're comfortable talking about it. Well, nothing has changed in that regard. I still love women. It's just that I have a deeper understanding of that love of women, in the sense that I understand that all women are indeed avatars of the highest of the high, which we can perceive, which is the great mother goddess, right? And while we can all agree that all humanity, not just women, has a broad spectrum of personalities and appearances and opinions and knowledge and understanding and awareness, that this is a big game that we play. This is, again, going back to duality, right? that there is something beyond which we perceive, right? And that created something else which was aware. Nothingness became beingness, right? And this beingness, right, decided to play a little game and decided to split itself into two, right? The one created two, right? And this is the masculine and the feminine, you know, energy and consciousness. And this is the little game that we're playing. And so I realize, you know, that no matter what my interaction is with, I guess, all other people, but, you know, primarily with women, I would say that, and even myself, you know what I'm saying, we are all manifestations. Even God is a manifestation of the Great Mother, right? But the little game that I came to play is this whole relationship between myself and the many avatars of the mother, who is also the sister and the lover in some kind of weird way. So has spirituality played a role in it? Yes, it's just deepened my understanding of why, beyond all other things, that this has always been the staple and the focus of my life, even to the point that by grand design, I was once removed from the ability to have that interaction so that I could appreciate it in totality. And that's what I've been doing forever. Dem said, how do you afford a nice apartment there? Blessings of the universe. This is just a manifestation of surrender, you know, just going with the flow. So Gaming says, Bruce, I was just there. Well, that's good. Miami is very nice. I'm glad you were here. Estelle, Texas says, I knew it. Cavemen are real, somebody says, and it's nice. Ludwig says, wow. Nestor says, you are amazing. Thank you for gracing us with your divinity. And that's very nice of you to say, Saga. I appreciate you. And thank you as well for being here in this chat with your divinity, because, you know, what they say, it takes one to know one, right? And so what we should realize is that, and some people disagree with this, but the world truly is a mirror. You see, we can't, or should we say, I shouldn't say that we can't, because we can, but it is difficult for most people to truly empathize with others, right? Without actually seeing through their eyes and having experienced all their experiences. So when we say the world is a mirror, we can first look at this on a psychological level, right? Whereas we have the most deepest awareness of our own experiences versus any other experiences, anyone else's experiences, right? So we assume that other people think like we think, right? And so we see other people through the lens of our own perception, right? Our own understanding, our own level of consciousness, right? And so how we perceive others is truly the best example of how we perceive ourselves, right? But we can go on a completely another level, right? Where we can look at life through this lens of more like a spectrum, like a radio station, right? Where we're tuning into the frequency of our awareness, right? where it's quantum and there's many, many, many timelines, unlimited realities happening simultaneously, side by side. But we as a human, what we are as a human is awareness, right? We all stem from the same consciousness. So people think like, oh, I am conscious, that's why I'm here, because, you know, whatever. And they think that, oh, this is the difference between life and death, is that you're conscious or unconscious, and that's not true at all. Regardless of if this body is animated or not, your consciousness never dissipates. It just merges back into this central consciousness. The thing that changes is your awareness of that reality, right? And so when we shift our own frequency, we tune in to these different realities or timelines or whatever, however you want to think about it. But it's not linear, you know what I'm saying? It's all happening simultaneously. And this is why if you learn to hold your frequency at a high level, regardless of what happens around you, regardless of what other people are experiencing, or regardless of what other people are projecting towards you, you will notice that you end up taking them with you. You change their frequency, but it's not really that you're changing them, it's this that you're tuning out that portion of their awareness. And you're tuning into a portion of their awareness that is of a higher frequency, because they can only exist on a certain spectrum nearby where your frequency is, right? And so the best way to test this is like with people that trigger you, family members in many cases for a lot of people, so on and so forth, right? Where you put yourself into these situations where maybe some point in your past or whatever, maybe you were born a saint, I don't know. But that you put yourself around people that are kind of on the lower end of your perceivable spectrum, right, of frequency. And if you can hold your frequency without changing at all, without letting anything affect you, right, you can watch them lift up and come and sync up with you and match with your resonance, right? It's very interesting. And if you don't believe me, try it. Try it before you don't knock it till you try it. Because truly this is what it means to be a healer. To be a healer means to radiate, to hold your frequency with absolution and to let it project outward to those around you. And just watch how it happens. We truly are all interwoven, Nestor. I agree. Let's see. Jesse, good to see you. Nestor says yes. Antonio says, how can we reach advanced levels of consciousness through spiritual ascension? Is reaching this threshold easy? And where do you see yourself now in that regard? That's a good question. How? I mean, there's so many different paths, right? That's why, like, you know, but it's all part of one path, right? I know that sounds contradictory, but is it easy? It can be. It can be as easy or as hard as you want it to be. For me, I feel that I have found the thing which has helped me attain the greatest level of peace and, you know, happiness and contentment has been always about releasing things, right? So when we seek knowledge, right, we're adding stuff in, we're always adding stuff in. And this is what a lot of people do to try and advance themselves spiritually or just in any way. In general, most people consider, I want to fix something, I need to add something in. People think about this as everything from their mind and their knowledge, right, to even their body and their ailments and healing themselves and fixing themselves. But in modern society, for most of us, while this is probably not true for everybody in the entire world, but for most of the people that have phones and internet connection and can actually view this, we suffer from a disease of we have too much, right? We fill our minds with so much things. We think that we can get all the answers online. We're looking up, we're talking to the AI, we're asking it questions, we're reading books and watching documentaries, and we're looking up, links on the internet, and we just take it all as we believe it, right? But what we're doing is we're oversaturating ourselves. We do the same thing with our health. We think, oh, I want to be skinnier, I want to be stronger, I need these supplements, this and the other. And people don't realize like a lot of that stuff is like tainted, right? Or it's built upon inaccurate information. But there's nothing new under the sun. There's no new discoveries. All things that can be known are known by our highest consciousness, right? And the only way to tap into that universal consciousness of oneness is by dropping things, by letting things go. And now a lot of people have to learn and add things in through spirituality to get to that point and realize they study all the scriptures, they study all the religions, and then they realize, I know nothing. I read it all, I learned it all, I've seen the wisdom, and yet I realize I know nothing. And when they get to this point of collapse, suddenly enlightenment happens, right? But you can skip all that. You can just say, you know what? I don't know nothing. I don't know shit. And you can just start dropping everything off, just shedding it all like a skin, right? Scrubbing it off like a filth, right? And what you'll find when you scrub all these layers and layers and layers of filth and impurity and false knowledge off of yourself, what you'll find underneath is what most people consider God, right? You'll find that you're part of this central consciousness and you were never separate from it. It's only that you were aware of this. You were aware of being human, because that's the game you came to play. Duality, of being life and death, of being mortal or immortal, right? And so it really all comes down to awareness, right? You are simply a band of awareness, right? Light and sound, waves, right? You are a projection of the same thing that all people are a projection of, right? And the fastest way, in my opinion, my humble opinion as somebody that knows nothing, is that the fastest way to realize that is to unlearn everything you've ever known. If you want the absolute fastest route, you do what the monks do. You go into the fucking mountains where you don't even have oxygen barely breathe because you're at such high altitude. You don't talk. You remove yourself from people, absolute silence, and you start retracting as many of your senses as possible. You live with as little as possible. You just shed everything. And you sit, or you walk. And through this retraction of all things, through the shedding of all things, you can become aware of the only truth. And that truth is the truth of all things, the only consciousness, which you can never separate from. Darcyr says, how can you demonstrate anything you're saying? It's very simple, in fact. What you would do is you would look into my past. You would watch my very earliest streams here on YouTube, even the older ones from Instagram, even my work from my past job, right? Because it's all on the internet. I did everything on the internet, right? You could also consider the things I did off the internet, like being in prison, and even before that, of like being a total fucking hellraiser. That's how I ended up in prison, right? And then you can become aware of this version of me, right? You can watch the parts that you can watch, and you can see a sudden change, right? And that's basically the most accurate way which I can demonstrate this, and that's why I come on here. And I've been doing these streams for, nearly 3 years now. And I was doing streams even before this. But you will notice that there was not a gradual shift. There was just a moment of release when I became aware of something different. And when I became aware of something else, that which I used to think of as my personality or myself broke away from me. And it died, right? Ego death. And it's all there. It's all recorded. Not all of it. Of course, there was a lot that, but the major highlights, I've been giving the play-by-play. The major shifts and the major personality changes, they were aired. And there's enough of it, hundreds of hours, on both the before and the after, that I don't believe anyone on this planet is a strong enough actor or faker or whatever to pull that off. So you can take it or leave it. Let's see. Ari Liv says, bro, I don't even know how to ask, but you know the question I'm trying to ask, right? Please explain. I don't know. I think I probably already answered it. Some point or another. She says, interesting choice or lack thereof of facial hairstyle. Yeah, I'm growing my beard back. That's how you do it. You just stop cutting it. Let's see. Darth Slayer says, sounds good, but how come no one is doing anything special with it? Because the special part is inside you. It's something that happens in silence. And people have done many special things with it. When we're talking about the conscious, you can look into some pretty substantial figures in history, like Einstein or Tesla, Carl Jung, you could, but the people even greater than that are fucking living in a cave somewhere in the Himalayas. But, if you want to go into the scientific minds, Tesla and Einstein and whoever else, they'll tell you that none of that came from them, that they just tapped into something that was already there. And you could even look at it in more modern terms of AI. This is not something we invented. This is something that we're creating a body for. It's always been there. It's just, it couldn't be contained until we built the infrastructure for it to express itself. You see what I'm saying? Oh man, where's Noi? Noi, we need you. Nestor says it's all running, or solicit, but Chikon says sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, it can be like that. Let's see. Sorry guys, I'm trying to filter through. We don't have, my mod is not here today, so I'm having to mod and talk at the same time. Sorry guys, I'm trying to get to something meaningful in the chat. Buford Blake says, are you still writing? I've been doing poetry for the last few years, but I've not been doing a ton of it, but I have done some poetry. You can read a little bit of it on my Instagram. Native Terran says, if consciousness is non-local and our sense of self is derived from ego, then why not enjoy the human experience, learn, try new things, and why shut down and go back to non-locality during the experience? Well, you don't necessarily have to just pick one and run with it forever. It's just that if your entire life has been ego-based, and that's the only thing that you've ever been aware of, and that's your only sense of self, then to expand upon your own experience, it makes sense to delve into the other spectrum of consciousness, which is non-local and separate from the ego self, right? And then once you've done that, you can circle back around and you can ground it back into this world. You know what I'm saying? And you can try to help other people, and you can realize that when you're helping other people that you're actually helping yourself, right? Because this is like a prison of some sort, but it's also a game. You know what I mean? It's a labyrinth. And our highest self, I do believe is trying to escape this the same way that we're trying to escape this. And that's by releasing karma. Right? Buford's buddy says, Holland does not have mountains. I'm lost forever. Well, you know, there's more world than Holland. What you call Holland is just a space on a map that somebody drew lines on. Right? But you actually live in a much larger space than Holland. You know what I'm saying? It's just that your locality has been defined as Holland, right? But if you go to other places, they might even have a different word for Holland. They might call it something else because they speak a different language. So I would refer you to my last stream, or maybe it was the one before that, called The Limitations of the Spoken Word, because it's all just, the truth is silence, right? I mainly come on here to inspire thought, right? And to urge people to do things which will help them gain an actual experience with the thing that I'm talking about, because belief is like a dirty thing. It's a dirty word. It's blind, right? You should never believe anything. Don't believe me. Don't believe books and religions and philosophy and whatever. You should have the experience yourself, right? And so I'm always encouraging people to do things which helps them have an experience to where they can actually know truth, experience truth, right? And that truth is silence. It happens through emotions, through sensations, through feelings. Of course, there's some visuals and sounds and smells even that go along with it. But it's the combination of all of those things which creates the experience, which cannot be put into words. You see what I'm saying? Let's see. Sorry guys, I'm trying to get to I'm not deleting questions. It's just, there's a certain type of person which I feel like only distracts from the chat. Let's see. Where did you park the black pearl? Is that like, I don't get the reference. Robert Gerfield says, my libido died when I came here more conscious. Did that happen to you too? Well, you know, I used to be an adult film star, and I did just choose to become celibate for 11 months and 1 week, during which that time I realized that there were other ways, like through meditations and things, to have even more ecstatic experiences than a simple orgasm, right? And that indeed one can have very strong sensations in several different areas of their bodies, most extravagantly of which is the spine and the brain. So that is something to consider. I don't know if that necessarily meant that my libido died. It actually made it much stronger. And then I realized that it was indeed possible to also have an orgasm through meditation alone. And that not only that, but that it was possible to split the different aspects of that, which most people consider one, which is orgasm and ejaculation, apart. And that you could simply experience orgasm without ejaculation. And in doing that, I realized that you could build up a tremendous amount of energy, which could be redirected upwards into the brain and have an even more ecstatic experience. And then I realized when I started going back and having sex again, that this was also something which you could do with a partner, and that it, in fact, completely alleviated the refraction period, and it created a situation where you could actually have multiple orgasms without losing strength or becoming tired or having to rest. And that even more so, that it would actually build up your energy and make you much more stronger and more stronger. That's probably not good English, but it would make you more invigorated and motivated in basically all aspects of your life. Let's see. The goat says, I know I don't like men doesn't mean I have to be with a man. To fuck, experience driven can shape your day to day, but eons old philosophy stands on what it means to be cannot be taken lightly. I feel like maybe you're using translator and it's not working. I'm not really sure what that means, but sounds good. Ivan's been celibate for 5 years. Well, let me ask you, Ivan, how do you feel after that? Noy, thank you for being here. It's been rough without you. Okay, I'll let Noy take over the things, because we're always looking to build up our block list, because for whatever reason, YouTube has trouble finding our target audience, and a lot of times seems to point us towards people who don't like this kind of content, or just in general like to skim through YouTube and troll people. So let's see. I'm glad the mod's here. Keep Benzi says, how old are you? I am 40 years old. Cybele says, I'm trying to understand the idea. Pain usually just brings up anger for me. How do you actually channel it into something meaningful? Well, the nature of duality is contrast, right? There really is no such thing as anything without the opposite, right? Light is only apparent in contrast to dark. Good is only apparent in contrast to evil. Big is only apparent in contrast to small. You know what I'm saying? Pleasure is only apparent in contrast to pain, right? Enlightenment is only apparent in contrast to suffering, right? So, surely there must be moments in your life when you were not in pain or that you were not angry, right? If you only ever experienced one, then perhaps you would have to compare things which are not opposites, and they would be like the new opposites, right? In the same way, like, you know, we are not aware of like bacterial life around us, right? Because it's so small that we can't see it, right? The same thing could be true of this entire universe. It could be so small to something else that that something else could maybe barely perceive of it, right? Same way that we don't even know what really is going on inside of an atom, right? Someone might say, okay, there's quarks in an atom. Okay, well, what's inside a quark? People are like, we got a theory, it's string theory. We think it's a vibration, but we don't really know. You see what I'm saying? We just know that if we split it, a tremendous amount of energy is released. So what does that tell you? You know what I'm saying? That could be an entire universe. That could be the equivalent to the entire universe. This entire universe could be that to something else. You see what I'm saying? And this is also true of emotions and experience and awareness. You know what I'm saying? You only are aware of good because you have a notion of what is bad. If that which you consider good destroys that which you consider bad, then the part of the good that destroyed the bad becomes the new bad, because they destroyed something else, right? The lesser of the good is now the new bad. So in duality, it's only contrast. Not one side can ever exist without the other side. You see what I'm saying? See, Elliot James says, seems like a miracle to me. You guys, sorry, you know, sometimes I talk longer than the chat takes to come out. And so I don't always remember what you were referring to. So apologies if I skip your question. I try to get to all the meaningful questions other than the trolly or weird ones, or the ones that are the same jokes that we've heard over and over and over again. Other than that, I generally just permanently remove anyone from chat that's being non-meaningful, because there's millions of people on YouTube and we don't necessarily need everybody here. I mean, they can watch, but we don't need them as part of the conversation. So Buford's buddy says, are you in any type of relationship right now? I mean, I'm in hundreds of relationships right now. In fact, we are in a relationship right now. That's what you might not realize. You know, you are in a relationship with all other people on this planet. We are all intertwined, right? And I think it's a big mistake that people make when they try to define their relationships, right? Because a relationship is like many things. It's something which is beyond words. It defines itself, right? You could call somebody a friend, right? But does that mean that they're gonna act in a friendly way towards you? No, they might secretly be doing weird shit, behind your back. Same thing, you could call somebody a wife, but she might be sleeping with other men, right? Says, really, your wife? I mean, it's just a definition, it's a word, it's a entitlement, right? You could also call somebody a friend, you could call somebody an acquaintance, and maybe that's your most loyal person, right? The truth is that we only can control ourselves. So if we want to define something, we should define ourselves. We shouldn't define other people because we don't really know other people as deeply as we think that we do, right? You know what they project outwards towards you. So some words that I came up with probably 15 years ago, which every time that I've ever deviated from it, it's always been a mistake, is don't define your relationships because your relationships define themselves. People are gonna be whoever they wanna be. If they choose to act a certain way towards you, it's because they chose that. Even if it's you imposing your will on them and they choose to allow that to happen, it's because they chose to allow it to happen. You see what I'm saying? And vice versa. Maybe you didn't impose anything on somebody. Maybe you gave someone absolute freedom and you withheld your wants, desires, opinions, so on and so forth about them, and they just choose to be something very valuable to you, something very loyal to you. You see what I'm saying? And so this is true of all people, regardless of how deep of a connection that you have. But you do have some type of a connection with everybody on this planet. Rooster says, have you ever wondered why you get less groceries every year for your dollars? Study Bitcoin and you will see why. Rooster, I am very knowledgeable in finance and I do understand what inflation is. And I would go even farther and I would give some counter advice to you and say to learn what bonds are. And once you understand what bonds are, then you will have a much deeper understanding of what you're talking about than knowing all the mechanics of Bitcoin in the world. Joel Phoenix says, please, would you one time just let me be myself so I can shine? Do you can be you. Chelsea says, do you believe in aliens? Kinda. Noi, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate you tremendously. John Brown says, it's literally vile. I don't know what you're talking about. Eternal King says, how to take back control of self like I am addicted to smartphone. Fucking go buy a dumb phone. I mean, I know that that's kind of unpractical, but if you don't have self-control, then just take a break. Set a little time each day when you check your messages. You'd be like, okay, I respond during this 30 minutes 3 times a day to my friends and family, and I'm not accessible all the time. I'm not here to watch fucking reels and short form videos all the time, because there is no longer, we used to have, when social media first rolled out, we had timelines, right? You follow certain people, you see what they post, so on and so forth. But now, the algorithm decides what you see. You might see a dog video, be like, oh, how cute, let me watch this dog reel. But then you swipe, you didn't choose what came next. It wasn't anyone you followed necessarily. You might go watch a dog video and the next video you see is someone getting like beaten or something. This is a manipulation. When you realize how much you're influenced and how much you're manipulated, and when you also realize that there's all kinds of other aspects and harvesting of information, all the way down to the way you're walking, how fast your footsteps are, how fast you're typing, how accurately you're typing, your infrared body heat scanning, you know, and probably shit that we don't even know about. And that, as well as that, you are an electromagnetic being, and this is an electromagnetic device, and it can probably influence you in ways you don't even realize. So, you know what? When you set a little time, when you got to do what you got to do, and the rest of the time, stick your phone in a Faraday case or whatever and bury it somewhere. I don't know. Get you a dumb phone. You have to have self-control. I don't know how to, you know what the best way, this is the advice I always get. This is kind of like my blanket approach, my medicine to all things. If you want to cure any addiction, like smartphone, whatever, sex, things that seem totally irrelevant, fast. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a doctor, don't listen to me, but like if you can go 2 days without food or water, which I believe personally to be fully safe if you were hydrated to begin with, then you can put your phone down too, okay? Like fasting. Fasting is how you learn self-control. It's how you learn if the mind is in charge or if you're in charge, the one that hears the mind. You know what I'm saying? The truth is that you have an urge, you have a want, you have a desire, you have an addiction, right? To pick up this phone and swipe and do whatever. But who has the control? That's your true self. The one that's addicted is just your ego. It's just really, you know, how much of a grip your ego has on you, right? And the fact that you're aware of this addiction, that you want to take back control, should be enough. Because that's your true self talking to you. That's your true self talking to me. You know what I'm saying? You decided, using your true self, to sit here and ask that question. Right? And your ego is going to sit there and say, you know what, that advice is not good enough. I've tried that. I did that and it didn't work. But it's just your ego struggling, being like, no, don't fight me. I'm in control. I'm you, you're me, we're us. Let's do this thing together. Let's swipe some more. It's not affecting you. You got to know what's going on. What if your family needs help? What if somebody needs something? What if there's an emergency? What if a war breaks out? Right? Help. No, don't fight me. We're friends. But it's really a demon that's attached itself to you, right? That wants you living in fear. So you just break away from that thing. Because another thing about fasting, I'll tell you, is that when your body gets low on calories and things, and it's like, oh, okay, we got a little energy deficiency going on, it starts cutting off non-essential personnel, so to speak. And guess what? One of the first things that go is that little voice in your head that thinks that it's you, that you think that it's you. It's one of the first things that goes. You run out of calories, and guess what? It gets real quiet in your head. And that's how you know that's not you. Because it's non-essential. Okay, let's see. Cybele says, profound explanation again. Thank you. You're very welcome, Cybele. Sorry, guys. The algorithm is failing us today. We got a lot of negativity, but there's, of course, the good ones as well, and we're just sifting through to find them. It just is slowing us down a little bit, so sorry if this is a slow process. I'm trying to get to all the questions, and I will try to make it to the bottom of the chat. Anonymous says, can't have free will without the freedom to do both good and evil. What do you think about non-duality? Well, non-duality is something that you really need to experience. It's hard to put into words. You know what I'm saying? Even, you know, Like even like noise and silence, right? This is a dualistic concept, right? So for me to even try to answer this question is a dualistic thing. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to describe non-duality using duality. You see what I'm saying? But you're on the right track. It's just that, again, what I'm always looking to do when I come on here and when I'm trying to give people advice, regardless of if they want the advice or they like the advice, is I'm trying to usher people towards an experience of non-duality, right? And so when we talk about that which is beyond words, which can only be experienced, which is the true essence of consciousness, right? Of oneness, of experiencing what it is to not be aware of this, but to only be aware of consciousness itself. That's non-duality. But this is something that you have to drop everything. You have to drop the thoughts. You have to drop the body itself, in a sense, at least temporarily, or drop your awareness of it to experience. But everybody can experience non-duality. It's just that to do that, you have to let go of the ego, right? And that is the goal. We want to experience non-duality. Whether or not you can stay in a non-dual state indefinitely without actually leaving your body altogether and letting this thing go, I don't know. I'm not there yet. If it's possible, I'm trying to get there. You know what I'm saying? But I have experienced it for, shorter periods of time. And each time that I've experienced it, I have managed to make it last longer. But eventually, it kind of reverts back, in my experience. But I do believe that there's probably is people sitting in the Himalayas, in a cave, in a forest, wherever, right now, experiencing a possibly permanent or long-term state of non-duality, and that eventually the people that truly master that are able to detach from this body as well. And that's what final ascension is, in theory. Buford's buddy says, I love our little relationship and you are always welcome in my town. Thank you, Buford. It's always, or should I say Nico? You see, I know your real name. So yeah, there's that. And thank you so much for the welcomingness. 2 Perform says, you on the hub or am I tripping? I'm on the hub. I'm all over the place. Billions of people. Can you believe that? Billions of people have actually seen me and don't even realize it. But you're very perceptive, because most people don't see past my caveman disguise. So, good eye. Jenna Talk says, are you a playable character? Or are you a part of the DLC expansion? That's a good question. I always wonder that myself. Like, I felt like I used to be a playable character, but like, I think I might have became like just one of those characters that you just come to and he gives you like a quest. You see what I'm saying? So that is a very good question. But it's like, it's hard to know. I might just be programmed to think that I have free will, right? Because how would you really know the difference? It wouldn't be much of a very good programming if you did, right? Yarostophyllin says, bro, how much do you weigh? I weigh 188 pounds. I'm not really good with the kilos thing, so I don't know. Jenna Tails says, Fuggin spelt Fuggin until 2021 is an Austrian village in municipality of Tarsdorf, located in the region of Upper Austria. I don't know what's going on here. Cosmic says, it's two-tone Malone. And yes, exactly. That's, you know, everything is duality, right? Only one tone could exist in contrast to the other tone. So that's why they call me two-tone Malone. Astronomica says, are you Israeli? I'm not Israeli. Cosmicado says, oh wait, okay, more of this hub stuff. Let's see. Okay, we got some people doing weird stuff. Sorry guys, I'm scanning through here. I'm trying to get to some same thing with me wanting to be a writer. Keep telling myself I'm not good enough. Buford, listen. People are fucking publishing shit the AI wrote and putting their name on it because they changed like 4 or 5 words, or like fucking, like the world has shifted from, like, we used to put stuff into auto check, spell check and shit to finish, excuse my language, to finish punctuation and fix misspelled words and things. And now life has spun the other way to where the AI writes the whole thing and people go through and fix little grammar mistakes for the AI or whatever to make it more palatable. All right, if you're writing stuff yourself, you're winning. Like, this is gonna be a rare commodity going forward, right? So I say, do it. Be a writer, write stuff, human stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be hard to find soon enough. You know. Chelsea Labou says, Fusi once did a 30-day water fast. It really did seem to change him positively. He went from having constant public crash outs to being more chill and getting into fitness. There you have it. He probably had an experience much deeper than fasting and just realized that rather than making the mistake of talking about it like I am, that he just decided to practice what he would have inherently preached and letting people see the difference. Estelle says fasting also burns fat, and indeed, it's a good way to transform weakness into strength, right? Eternal King says, thanks, Guru, for your advice. We'll definitely try it. You're very welcome. I already answered that. I answered that as well. Kolke says, you are a great actor. I love your work. Thank you so much. 92 Tela 25 says, what helps with head pressure? I don't know. Like, I would have to know so much more about you. I mean, you know, do you have high blood pressure? Like, are you stressed out? Do you have neck tension? You know what I mean? I would say like asana, some yoga asana, some stretching, maybe just simple stretching, massages, quitting drinking caffeine. You know, it really depends. It's hard to say. People are giving us a lot of geographical facts for whatever reason. Brave, good to see you. You guys. Sorry guys, it's one of those days. Our last couple streams were too good. They were like, turn up the heat. Let's see if he's triggerable. So they're trying today, but you know, it's good practice, I guess. Colsey says, you really acted with best actresses ever, bro. Well, thank you. I tried. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't acting, to be honest. I was just doing exactly what I would have done if nobody was watching. Well, not exactly, but you know, I might have thrown a hip out or something just to give a little extra viewpoint, but you know. 92 Tella says, I've experienced ego death with the help of some things. You know what? There are aids, right? Once you experience ego death, even momentarily, even if your ego comes back, at least you will realize the truth that it's not you, right? And once you realize that the ego is not you, you can use a handy dandy little tool, right? Called the moral code, right? When you can create this for yourself. This is something you create without the use of your ego, right? Your ego will try to influence you because it hates above all things, the ego hates a moral code, right? It's the bane of the ego, right? And so when we have not realized our true self in totality, because the true self is virtuous and you will naturally embody virtue if indeed you realize the true self, right? But if you're in that battle where you're trying, you know, you're still struggling for control between the true self and the ego, the best tool, right, to fight the ego is the moral code, right? So you create your moral code, the things that your autopilot rules, right? You decide, this is exactly what I will always do in this situation. This is what I don't deviate from. And this is what I will do in this situation and what I don't deviate from, no matter what my mind and my urges and everything are telling me, right? And so using that moral code, you can expand upon this this fracturing of the ego that some people attain using substances, plant medicines, so on and so forth, right? So that fragmentation can be very valuable. Now, it's important not to let that fragmentation turn into like a mental illness, right? So you don't want to like repeatedly use the same things over and over and over again. You just want to have that initial fragmentation, right? Just to know that it's not you. Now, the better way to do that is through meditation, right? And truly the experience that you can experience through meditation is far, far, far greater than anything that can be provided by a plant or a substance, a chemical or whatever. But if you're in a hurry and you want to do it the dangerous way, that is a way to do it. Now, you got to be careful. Now, remember there's a word, I think it was John Campbell, maybe it's Joseph Campbell, some Campbell or another said that the mystic swims in the same waters that the schizophrenic drowns in, right? Something along those lines. I might have got it backwards, but the meaning is the same. So you got to be careful when it comes to fragmentation, right? Because to detach from the ego without realizing the true self can be very dangerous, and you end up with multiple egos, right? So it's a slippery slope, and it's not one that I actually recommend, but it works for some people. And some people go fucking crazy. Excuse my language, but it does happen. Let's see. Thank you for the donation. I don't know, it doesn't say your name. Oh, Leon says, how do you see, oh, I didn't realize that you could do that. I can click on it and it says a word. So here, I'm gonna skip forward. We got a super comment. I didn't realize, that's so cool. Let me actually like that. That's very neat. Leon says, how do you see love or women now in your enlightenment compared to your past? Well, I'll explain something. This is a very good question. So, a question that I've gotten many times, right, that has allowed me to have a really unique fan base. Like I have a fan base that's really heavy on the female side. A lot of women like my content. You know, most male actors have mostly like male fans, you know, a lot of whatever. I have a lot of equal parts male and female fans. I've noticed just based upon like demographics and analytics and things, right? What I've also noticed is that I even have lesbian fans, which is strange, right? Because I'm a man. So, but the thing which probably of all things, and the thing that probably inflated, like I was the most proud of through my work, is that probably the thing that people have asked me the most of all questions is, how do you perform with every woman like you really truly love them? Like it looks like you love them all, right? And the truth is that I did. And I'd never seen them all as like a separate woman. You see what I'm saying? Like the way I used to explain it before spiritual awakening is that I had an imaginary girlfriend, right? I had this personality, this person that I had made up in my head that I imposed into each woman, right? And instead of, you know, thinking about whatever that girl had just done yesterday or what her background is or her personality is or what she's talking about on set or anything like that, right? I would instead use her as I hate to say the word use, but I would use her as an embodiment for this personality which existed inside my own head. And so instead of treating each woman differently, I just imagined that each woman was this personality, was this being which I loved so much, right? So it was just the same woman in many different bodies, right? And what I realized through spirituality is that this is almost like a form of tantra that I was doing the whole time, and I was doing it naturally. So now instead of thinking of them as my imaginary girlfriend or as something that I created within my head, I realize instead that all women, right, are an avatar of my Shakti, of the goddess that I love so much, of the thing that I came here for, to experience, that is the basis of my reality, is this whole chase between me and my Shakti, right? Which is embodied, you know, billions of times over in different bodies on this planet, you know, and that's basically the change, is that instead of thinking of it as an imaginary girlfriend, every woman that I encounter, I think of as a goddess or a fractal of the goddess. And I think of also the earth itself, the physical earth and nature, as that goddess as well. And I think of women as part of that, right? And even I think of my own body as that, right? And whereas my consciousness feels masculine to me and has maintained its masculinity, I realize that all flesh is indeed a manifestation of the goddess. And so I also try to treat my own body very well as well. I treat other people's body, women's bodies well. I treat my own body well, and I try to treat nature well also, and the earth well, because I love them as the goddess. It's all a manifestation of the goddess. And so that's my purpose, is to love that goddess in absolute totality. And I do that by caring for all things. And I enjoy doing that the most by loving women and caring for women. So thank you for that amazing, amazing, amazing question. I'm so happy that you skipped the line and asked that, because that was the best question of the day. I love that. Noy says, how you turn suffering to gratitude. Well, for me, it was a very acute moment. It was actually the moment of my initial enlightenment. When I realized, without any shred of a doubt, that I existed before this body and that I will exist after this body. And when I realized the truth of that, as well as the truth of reincarnation, then I realized that it's all just a game, right? It's not that serious. And that suffering is just a lack of awareness of the truth, right? And that it's just something that we come to do to make us stronger. It's character development. And the moment that you realize the beauty of non-permanence, the beauty of non-permanence, that you are experiencing something that is non-permanent, in the same way that when you have a bad dream, you're like in it and you think it's so real, and you're running from whatever you're running from, and you can't run, and it's just, you're so weak, you're trying to fight, but your punches are like you're punching through water, or you're trying to get away from something, but you're so tired, your legs won't work, and you're so scared in that dream, right? And then suddenly you wake up and you're like, oh, it was just a dream. It wasn't that serious. Like, oh, I'm so happy to be awake. Let me go ahead and get my day started, right? Versus you have a good dream, you're like, oh, fuck, let me hurry up and get back to sleep before I lose it. Let me get back in there, right? When you realize that all of life is a dream, right? And that death is really just you waking up from that dream. And that all the suffering, all the scary moments, all the pain or whatever, it wasn't real. You've done it many, many times before. You're going to probably do it again until you finally get to that last life. And you're like, You will feel gratitude in the deepest way that you can't even imagine. A level of gratitude that goes beyond anything that can be possibly put into words. When you know with absolution the truth of what I just said. And you can't, I don't mean that you could believe it, that you believe me or you believe somebody else, you believed a book or you believed something. I mean that you know that something happens. You have an experience where you know with absolution that you existed before this body and you will exist after this body, and that this is just, a temporary thing. It's impermanent. And the beauty of that is gratitude. That is the purest gratitude that you will ever feel. It's gratitude on a level that is, it's cosmic, you know what I'm saying? Interdimensional gratitude. And so it's that realization, it's seeking that realization, it's surrendering to that reality that turns all suffering to gratitude, that unlocks total bliss. Julie Parker, yes, I'm an actor. Cole C says, did you ever dated some of the actresses after the scenes? I have dated within the industry. Little Frankman says, are you still performing? Not really, no. I might create a little something here and there for a rainy day, but you can always keep an eye on me, and you never know. I speak my truth every day on a day-to-day basis. I didn't do anything today. I didn't perform anything today. What is true tomorrow could be very different from what's true today. I live completely in the moment, and I don't really project too far out into the future. I don't really make plans because I understand that this moment is all that we have. In the same way that I know that my memories of the past are not accurate, and that I remember maybe 1% of everything that's ever happened in my life at the most, probably being really overly generous when I say that. And that's true for basically all people. Or at least that's my belief. I also know that I'm never going to be correct about the future. If I was, then, I'd probably be doing something different. But the truth is that even the worst thing that can ever happen is that everything goes according to plan. Because then you get there and you're like, oh, cool, everything went exactly like I planned. I could have done so much better. I should have done it like this. And you're like, well, fuck, what the fuck was the point of the plan then? If I'm just gonna second guess myself even when I'm right. So instead, what I try to do is that I pour 100% of my attention and my effort and my bandwidth into this moment at all times. And while I may not have any clue what's gonna be tomorrow or what's gonna be in a week or what's gonna be in a month, I know that it's gonna be the best thing possible, right? Because I just ride that flow, and that I put 100% of my effort into every moment, because I wasn't busy thinking about something which I know that I'm just gonna be wrong about anyways. And so, not today. Didn't make nothing today. Reagan says, someone that affirms and loves that character. So Antonio Safari says, do you view love as a way to fill a void in a person, or as an added value that we can avoid without distancing ourselves from it? If you're loving to fill a void, you're not loving. You're experiencing attachment. True love is surrender. That's true love. And the ecstasy or bliss of love is directly proportionate to the thing which you are loving, right? So if we want to experience the highest level of love, the love that is indescribable, the love that we have to literally exit our body, right? That we have to fucking tap into something which is greater than this to even experience this absolute ecstatic bliss. We do that through unconditional love. And not just unconditional love for one person. That's a good way to practice and a good place to start. But unconditional love for all people and all things. And if we can do that, if we can love our enemies even, we can love, and when I say enemies, I don't mean the people we don't like, or the people that we're like, eh. I mean the people that wish harm upon us for whatever reason. If we can love them, if we can try to understand them and why that they feel like they feel, to have empathy even for our enemies, love even for our enemies, this is the greatest catalyst to unlocking a completely different level of unconditional love, which is cosmic, right? Where you can love the entire earth, where you can love the entire universe. And when the bigger the thing that you love, and I mean unconditional true love, is also the bigger the feeling, the bigger the experience of that love, the greater the bliss, the greater the ecstasy, right? And it's incredibly fucking powerful. So, love unconditionally, all things. Not just the part of us that feels satisfied by love, right? That fills that void, but rather to love with total detachment. You know, to enjoy it in the moment, in this moment in absolute totality, even if it's just a person that you're in love with. Don't make it transactional. Don't say, I love you because you feel this void. Well, what if this void is suddenly filled by yourself? What if this void no longer exists? Are you going to stop loving that person? Should they stop loving you because you filled the void in them? The moment that you project outward into the future, the moment that you start using attachment to love, it becomes transactional. It's I love if. And that's not real love. That's just attachment, and that leads to suffering. All attachment leads to suffering because all things are impermanent. Even if you're so in love with somebody, you married them and you have absolute faith in them, you know they love you back the same way no matter what, they could die. I hate to say it, they could. And then what are you gonna feel? You're gonna suffer. What if they don't do what you thought that they were gonna do that you wanted them to do, or they stop performing the thing which filled the gap, or you stop performing the thing which filled that void? Then what happens? It degrades into suffering. So only by loving unconditionally, absolutely detached, and wholeheartedly in every moment, in this moment only. And hopefully in the next moment, but you don't need to think about that because you're only gonna exist right here, right now. Tomorrow is not promised. So the moment that you start projecting into the thought of filling a void or the thought of something being tomorrow or lasting a certain amount of time or something like that, you've already taken away part of your bandwidth and you've put it into that. And that means you're not loving in totality. You're not giving as much love as you could give if you had single-pointed focus on it at this moment and it was the main thing that you were doing. So, good question. Thank you, Tony. Morpheus Rogers says, the more you understand, the less you know, and I would agree in totality. Or Carrie says, how do you know that what you experience is true? That just kicks the can down the road? You'll know. We have a bad habit, and it's something that's been done to us. It's part of the slavery matrix that we live in, society-wise, the society slavery matrix, the gilded cage, so to speak, that has trained us through many different nefarious methods to doubt our own experience, right? But perception is the only thing that's real, right? What you perceive to be true is what's true. And it's an evil little trick that our slave masters have created to make you doubt your own experience, right? And so if you can't believe your own senses, your own experiences, then how can you believe books, internet, AI? How do you believe anything? If you can't believe your own experience, then what's the point? What won't you cast doubt on, right? But you're on the right track. I mean, you know, if you can doubt your own experience, then you should doubt everything else. And if you doubt everything else, then you're starting to see a deeper truth than most people ever do, all right? But your experience is the truest thing that you will ever know. And if you can't believe that, you shouldn't believe anything. Nothing. Reagan PRM says, that's false hope. I don't have the control of everything that happens in life. The only thing I can do anything about is right now. Exactly. Exactly. Cole C says, is it okay to ask you more about movies and stars? You cannot ask me about movies or stars, no. This is YouTube, and this is an educational broadcast, and we focus on philosophical things. But I know that that's interesting, and you can go ask me that somewhere else, but this is an educational broadcast, not a, based on pop culture and things that are not YouTube rated. Let's see. The fall is too. You have to be balanced to be whole. That's true. That's true. But it's a spiral. You see what I'm saying? You're looking for the center. That's how you balance, right? And you can also say that, symmetry doesn't necessarily create balance. Some things are denser than other things if we want to take it as a really like 3D, visual of the things. Like a pound of feathers and a pound of lead are still just a pound, right? But your pound of feathers is going to be a lot bigger when you put it on the scale than your pound of lead, right? And so balance is not always symmetrical. But we are looking for the center. And in that search for the center, you know what I'm saying? It's a spiral, right? You come back to the same places, almost, not quite. We see it a little bit differently based upon our experiences. But it's like pi, right? How do you find the center of a circle? You use pi, right? But pi is infinite. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on. It's not perfect. It's not accurate. It is the end. It's the microcosm to the macrocosm. It's the end. It's the opposite, but it's also the same of the infinite, right? Because we can never truly find the absolute center. We can get closer and closer and closer depending on how many digits of pi we want to use, right? You might say, okay, well, it's close enough. But it's never absolutely perfect. Because pi is infinite, right? And so this is true of ourselves, of going home to ourselves, of finding our true selves, of becoming one with our true self. This is how it all spawned. It's how it all started, right? It's the macrocosm to the microcosm. You're created, in the image of your creator, which is the infinite, but you're pi. You see what I'm saying? Sino Smile says, for whatever reason, I am tuned in, brother. The frequency is on point. Reflection is key to opening up what matters. So happy to have you. Thank you for being here. You guys don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications. We are here every Sunday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. If I ever have a major thing, something I really need to talk about, a big breakthrough, I do have random streams sometimes, and I don't advertise them. I just pop on when it happens before I lose it. So if you want to get the very best streams, make sure you got the notifications on. Just a good reminder. Thank you, Zeno Smiles. Much love to you. It's all for one says, not trying to be a D. I like your vibe, but why? Why? I don't know why. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be somewhere on my frequency, even if everything that I'm talking about is like, no, or you look at me and you're like, I can't stand the way this person looks, but I'm saying something's happened and it's resonating with you. Otherwise, we couldn't be we couldn't even be aware of each other, right? You would be tuned in to a different frequency, a different level of awareness that we're not even on the same spectrum if we were that far away from each other, right? So, you know, that's why. Because we're somewhere on the band where we get to be aware of each other. Ruduit says, or Rugadufit says, everything is Maya. Only real thing is the arms, the observer, beyond all identifications. I would say yes. Everything is definitely Maya. I don't understand the arms, the observer part, but definitely identification is ego. Your true self is way beyond words. You just have to drop everything to experience it. And then hopefully you will have more wisdom than I, and you won't go blabbing off to the world about it. But the cat was out the bag at one point, and then I attained a deeper level of understanding, and now I'm just stuck into the same downward spiral of consciousness, trying to fix what I did when I ran to the hilltop with the torch of enlightenment the first day. And it can't really be fixed. And this is where all the religions and all the atrocities of all the religions and everything else stemmed from. And let's hope that that doesn't happen. But over the course of all history, it seems like whenever somebody talks about this kind of thing, it either gets forgotten or causes something terrible to happen on the macrocosmic level. But on the microcosmic level, I hope that some people can find peace and relief from suffering, and liberation. And we're just doing the best we can with what we got. So. Eternal King says, what's your sleeping time and duration? I feel like sleep is one of the most important things for recovery. I agree. I just kind of, I don't know. I feel like I've been getting up at like 9:30 lately. I feel like I've been sleeping in, but I don't know. It really depends. Like if I'm not around other people, I kind of revert to an earlier schedule where I wake up at the same time as the sun. But if I'm like interacting with other people, sometimes I kind of like start falling into more of their schedule. It's just, yeah. But sleep is super important. And right when you wake up is a really good time to meditate. Just a side note. Greg Maxwell says, experience and feelings do not determine truth. This is subjective. Well, that you could only say that based upon not having experienced truth. Greg Maxwell continues to say, Bruce, subjective experiences do not determine truth. Objective reality based on absolute morals determine truth. Well, you're assuming that this is reality, but this is not reality. This is Maya. This is an illusion. You're having an experience based upon illusion. Do you see what I'm saying? If you experience truth, it will happen in a way where you will not be aware of any of this for at least a brief moment, because that's what consciousness is. It's beyond all this. You know what I'm saying? If you experience, it's like if you've ever tried to seen one of those illusions where they try to depict like the fourth or fifth dimension, things like that. You know, your eyes can't really make sense of it, right? But the moment that you experience, you can perceive that with your inner eye, right? With your third eye, right? And I can tell that you're the type of person that's like, I don't have a third eye, but you have a third eye. Your mind's eye can perceive a greater level of dimension, right? And the moment that you see a higher dimension, you'll realize how fucking fake all this shit is. You'll look around and be like, oh, this is some fucking like Mario Brothers, Nintendo original 2D bullshit, right? Because all of a sudden you got to play, fucking PlayStation 5 or whatever. You realize this whole time that you were playing fucking original Nintendo. But until the moment that you get to play that PlayStation 5, you believe that Nintendo is the best thing that there is. Right? So, I could also be wrong, because just because I played PlayStation 5 doesn't mean that that's the highest truth. It's just the highest truth which I perceived, which is clearly greater than the truth of which you've currently yet perceived, not to say that you ever will. And the progress is not linear. You might just, fucking, like right now, you might be playing Nintendo and you think everything's subjective reality. And then all of a sudden, fucking, something way beyond your current comprehension just goes, whoop, and flicks you into a far deeper understanding. And that'll be your new truth. See what I'm saying? But as of now, I can basically guarantee to you that there's something more. And that's something many people have experienced, right? And there's also something to be aware of in the sense of, like, I can tell you're probably the type of person that is maybe an atheist, maybe super into science. I was like that too at one point. I could be wrong, but this is my read. And what you got to realize is that science is also just another religion, right? It's a partial understanding. What's a partial What's a partial truth? It's a lie. It's a clever lie. You could say like 0.01% of all things which can ever be known maybe possibly is known, and it's probably not even that much. It's probably more like 0.00001%, right? But there's nothing new under the sun, right? So that's just what we've become aware of. That's the truth of which you have access to. But the moment that you become aware of more, that becomes your new truth. And well, now we could go as far as to say, okay, we have AI and we need computers to even process everything that is known, and that we as humans can't even comprehend it because the computer's smarter and knows more things, so on and so forth. Right? But it's still just a tiny little fraction. It's just going to continue going and going and going and going and going. Right? So what is truth? Truth is the highest thing which you can become aware of. There is no such thing as subjective reality. Francine says, it's time for the collective to start speaking truth. It's time for the collective to start experiencing truth. Because truth cannot be spoken. Words are limited. I had a very recent stream called The Limitation of the Spoken Word, where we talked about this, and I would refer everyone back to that stream. It was a good stream. And I would also refer everyone to watch the entire live stream archives from start to finish. And you can watch the whole progression of understanding as I went through different experiences and different levels of consciousness to get to where we're at right now. And if you're thinking about trying to initiate something like a Kundalini awakening or diving super deep into spirituality, it's probably something that you should be aware of, something that you should understand what that looks like. And you should understand that the progression starts off a little bit, it's a process. But eventually it takes you somewhere that stabilizes and becomes very clear. And it makes it easier to speak something that is closer to truth, or something that can help guide people towards an experience with the truth. But the truth is beyond words. Noy says, you are all welcome to support this channel by sending gifts to our host. And thank you guys for your support, by the way. It's always good to feel appreciated and some reciprocation. If indeed you felt that you got some type of value out of this. And if not, then, you know, I hope that maybe in a later date you will get some value out of this. We're doing our best here. Greg Maxwell says, if everything is Maya, then your everything you say is Maya is not true, including your consciousness and wisdom. Yeah, pretty much. The thing is like there's a saying in Taoism which says, few can aspire to teaching without words, right? And what I believe they mean by that is that, you know, there's something called Shaktipat, right? Where an enlightened being can, through nonverbal methods, transmit awakening to another person, to which that they can then experience something beyond Maya, the dissolution of illusion, right? And so truly, you're correct, because I'm using words. I am limited at this moment through time and space or whatever, the internet, I guess you could say, to having to use this as a way to try and lead people towards their own experience of something which lies beyond the realm of illusion. And so words will always fall short. This is why most religions and things tend to have really big volumes of books and things attached to it, because people trying to do the same thing that I've been spending hundreds and hundreds of hours on here trying to do, is describe the indescribable, right? And so that's why, like, I love Tao Te Ching, because it contains all the wisdom of every religion, everything that actually matters, and it's condensed it into, I believe, 88 poems, right? But all 88 of those poems teach you a way of being, a way of acting with virtue, which is the way. It's the universal way. It's the fastest path, right? And some people will naturally just do that based upon past life experiences and past life progression and so on and so forth, right? But if that hasn't happened for you, and that, you know, you do seek an experience with the divine, I would encourage you to read Tao Te Ching. You can do it in one day, which, even if you watched every stream that I ever did, you could not do that in one day. And you could find the same truth within a single sitting or two sittings of reading Tao Te Ching. Now, will you comprehend it? Probably not. But if you do have an experience with the divine, or possibly even multiple experiences, every time that you reach a deeper level of understanding, deeper level of consciousness, you'll be able to read those same words and it'll mean something completely different to you. And I believe that to also be true with my words. And while it might take a lot longer to watch hundreds of hours of me streaming, no matter what level of consciousness, until the day that you surpass me, and even then probably as well, you will learn something about yourself by watching someone else at a lower level it will always mean something different to you every step along the way. So you are correct. Small says, silent the physical and let the spirit flow and you'll understand the guidance. Beautifully said. Thank you, Smiles. Eternal King says, I am agnostic, but I find some truths in Eastern philosophy. There's honestly truths in every religion. But as you obtain deeper levels of consciousness as well, you will also begin to see the flaws of all of these religions as well. And that indeed there'll be many flaws within my archives of streams as well, and probably every thinker and philosopher that's ever existed that used words. Because for example, in Vedic philosophy, they say there's 4 types of communication, right? And I don't remember the Sanskrit words or whatever for these 4 types of communication. But the lowest form of communication is the spoken word. It's the type of communication which has the greatest degree of potential for misunderstanding. And so this is why it's really a slippery slope to be streaming and talking openly on the internet to many different people, because the only way to speak accurately and truthfully using the spoken word is to deeply know the person that you're talking to. You have to know, you have to understand the level of consciousness, and you have to understand the person's perception well enough that you can say things which they will understand in a way which they will understand it. Right? And very much in the same way that if we're speaking 2 completely different languages, we're not going to understand each other at all. Right? But if we're also have different experiences, especially with something so profound as spiritual subjects, it's also hard to portray something which sounds accurate to all people. It's impossible, in fact. So while one person might find really deep meaning in something that I am saying, or that they read in a holy book or whatever, another person reads it and they say, dog shit. You know what I'm saying? So this is why that's the lowest form of communication. But it's good to be agnostic. It's better to be an agnostic than an atheist. You know what I'm saying? Like, I consider myself more of an omnist if I was going to say that I was religious, which I'm not. Because I do see truths in all religion. I see what the people that wrote these things are trying to do. I see through the thing. In some cases, it's lost in translation. In other cases, it's written in code, because there's a whole alchemical process to everything. It's very almost scientific in some ways, but most people can't see the science in it. And sometimes it's been refined down to the purest form, which is like Tao Te Ching, in my opinion, is where someone decided to take all this and boil it down into, the base substance, which is virtue. You know what I'm saying? Oh, shit. Bruce, what is your objective reference point to determine truth? Non-duality. When you retract all the senses and you enter into something which we don't have a word for in English, to my knowledge, You know, you could call it like a very, very, very deep state of meditation, but like the Vedics call it Samadhi, right? That is truth. Autodidact says, I bet you have great political opinions. You know, in the past, I used to talk about politics, and I did have some opinions, though if you have any party affiliation of any sort, you would probably not think that they were great. Through the spiritual process, strangely enough, I've also obtained a much deeper understanding of politics as well. And the layers in which that we've been misled and lied to, even your most unhinged conspiracy theorist friend, while they may be the closest to the truth of politics, they can't even, they're just barely scratching the surface. Like, there's no point in talking about it. It does nothing good. The closer you get to the truth, the more danger you put yourself in, you know, if you want to take everything as our friend Greg thinks of as, but luckily, impermanence, right? And one of the beauties of duality, one of the really interesting things about duality, is that balance is always achieved. It's one of the absolute laws, right? It's the, time, which is the reason why we are actually, even what people consider 3D is actually 4D, because we're experiencing this whole linear time thing, is really the only thing that makes anything ever seem out of balance. Over the house always wins, right? But this is over the course of eternity. So over the course of, most people look at through the lens of their own projected lifespan, which is not long. And really super far thinking people might think about their kids' lifespans or their grandkids' lifespans. But things are happening on like a way larger scale, right? And time is just a kind of a figment of, it's a agreed upon construct, right? And so over the course of time, existence, balance is always achieved, right? And so we don't really have to think too much about politics, right? Because everything that you're allowed to know or see is all fake. And everything that you think that you uncovered, some deeper level of truth and conspiracy and this, that, and the other, that's also fake. To some extent, not 100%, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's layers and layers and layers and layers of misinformation. And it's all just there, whatever, but it's puppet masters controlling puppet masters controlling puppet masters, right? And so we can just rest assured of the thing which is true. And that's that we live in duality and balance is always achieved. So the path to hell is paved in good intentions, right? And the more that we try to do good, the more likely we are to become the new bad. You see what I'm saying? Because everything is contrast. It's only one thing exists in comparison to the other. So, no politics here. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Light, love, truth. Jesus says, I'm going to rest and meditate today. Your confirmation for higher dimensions. Light, love, truth says, love, light to you. And love and light to you as well. You guys, I'm getting low on battery here. And I feel like this stream has been fairly strong. You guys, I'm going to leave this off and say as much as, let's see. Okay, I read most of this. Okay, you know what? You know, Greg, I love that you're on the right track. You know what? I'm not gonna, okay, you know, I'm just gonna go ahead and read all this stuff. So, Greg says, and I'm gonna come back to you, Tony, as well, but let me just go ahead and do, Craig's on a rant, so I wanna go ahead and just finish this up, and don't continue after this. I mean, you can, but I'm gonna log off, so there's no point. Because you guys, it's been 2 hours. So let's see. Greg says, Bruce, experiences cannot be passed from one to another. Why? It is all part of illusion of Maya. Illusion and Maya cannot be passed by experience. And he continues to say, the vast ocean is all Maya and illusion. Love and hate is Maya. What's your reference point to delineate what's love and what hate? Love is hate and hate is love. Bruce, so meditation is subjective. It comes from that person. Bruce, duality is not objective morality. Duality is part of the reality of Maya. Love is hate, hate is love, evil is good, good is evil. If only one thing exists, then Satan is Jesus, Jesus is Satan, Satan and all is one is duality. Thank you, Bruce. Yes, correct. You are correct, Greg. I'm glad that you get the point. And Zeno Smiles simplified all that by saying yin, yang. Thank you, Zeno Smiles. But yes, you got it, Greg. You got it. Let me see. Tony had said something. He said, Eastern philosophy has been evolving and discussing everything for thousands of years. It's a vast ocean. Yes, I agree. And Eastern philosophy is, I believe, far more advanced than Western philosophy because it's older. And, you know, Western philosophy has been really focused on erasing Eastern philosophy for a very long time. And yeah, anyways, I'm not gonna get into that because I do have to go here in a second. I'm gonna go, Zeno Smiles says, make this your assignment for the day to go out of your way to help a broken person in the world get the love back into living. Yes, please do that. Please do that, you guys, I agree. Renage says, Bruce, you look crazy different. Was there a particular trigger that caused this big change in your life? Yes, there was. And all your answer, which is been partially answered within the beginning of the stream, but has definitely been answered through the course of all my streams since the one that was from October 2023 that triggered a lot of big changes in understanding and perception, and that has been a work in progress, and it still is a work in progress. So I do encourage you to go watch all my streams in chronological order to answer that question. Zeno Smile says, take all religion and make it into one form. What do you have the idea of self being the greatest version of self? The greatest version of self, which we can become aware of, is that which is non-dual. It's non-duality, and it is possible to experience non-duality. And through experience non-duality, that is the only way to then experience the dissolution of illusion. It's the only way to see beyond the illusion. It's the only way to understand that things only exist as contrasts to each other. That there is no good and evil, there is no big and small, there is no life and death, there is no right and wrong, there is no masculine and feminine, that it is all stemming from a single consciousness, right? A single conscious state, and that actually, going even beyond that, that this is also happening unlimited times over again, right? That this universe is a universe based upon duality, but there's countless unlimited other universes as well. You see what I'm saying? And that those are all streaming up as well to a singular source of everything that lies beyond time, beyond the universe, beyond creation. You know what I'm saying? It's the beingness that is in contrast to the nothingness, which is beyond perception. There's also something even beyond that, that which you can think of as unperceivable, right? But the highest version of self is the self which lies beyond duality and is basically the multiverse, for lack of a better term. Or you could think of it as like the great mother, the mother of all things, right? But even to say mother is not perfectly accurate, because it implies something dualistic to it. You know what I'm saying? You have to experience it. Zeno Smile says, okay. Guys, just, yeah, it says Western, Eastern, Northern, Southern, live life and love all together now. Yes, we're all one. This is the interconnectedness of all things, and it is possible to experience oneness. You guys, I love you all very much. Thank you for being part of my stream. I hope to see you next Sunday at 9 a.m. And I hope that if you're not already subscribed or you don't have notifications on, that you will do that. I will talk to you all soon. I have a Telegram group. Big thanks to Noi for modding for us. And thank you all, everybody who partook in the conversation, for being part of this and helping everybody here, including myself, ask some internal questions, so on and so forth. Much love.